Yeah,
like the New Yorker cover type people.
Yeah, man.
Well, the worst of the worst is the New Yorker tote bag.
Dude, I know these people. I've chilled with those people. I know that shit. I've lived in it. I was born in it, molded by it.
No, that's when you're hanging out with them and you have to like sit and like listen to someone's like annoying girlfriend talking about how like,
oh, I'm triggered. Oh yeah,
just talking about like whatever fucking like pop culture bullshit constitutes as politics this week.
Yeah, I mean, I just have experience among like the NPR tote bag set. I can't even imagine like the New Yorker tote bag set. That's on a whole nother level.
What's the deal with buying a tote bag for a media publication? Who the fuck does that, man? Like,
well, it's oftentimes it's included in like you pay a monthly like a donation, and then they give you free swag. So,
okay.
Yeah, so it's a way for them. You know, it's like they'll lose a little money on producing and sending it out, but if you're repping it around, it's soft advertising. That's like some soft power.
But they have Supreme drops too. They have like drop rare. Supreme drops.
Literally, like I mean, like those media, like a state media company like NPR, they 100% have merch. They 100% have. I mean, it's probably dog off. It's probably dog shit. But
there's not like collabs with like Virgin Abloh and people like staying up late at night.
Oh my god! If that actually happened,
you gotta show up to a newsstand like super early, like at like 1 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. Go camping out. It's like, yo, dead stock, yo.
It's like camping out for like the new set of Jordans, except it's just a bunch of like third grade teachers, like hoping to get like t-shirts for like the local independent music radio station.
They're dropping it live on like the NPR broadcast at like 3 a.m. Everyone's just staying up super late to get the discount code from the live show. Yeah, live slumber parties.
Yeah. Doing resales on eBay, like marked up like
StockX.
I was on the Seattle NPR street team for a little while.
Oh my god!
They had
live recordings.
They had that fucking CIA rebrand that happened.
Yeah, man. So I'm at Slavoid T.
All right, this is Shit Spouter 37.
This is Black.com pilled.
This is the Fed Post.
I know we talked about it before, but it's something we've just been saying for a long time, but we really need to do those fucking Lip Pandemic shirts and the fucking white hotep koofies and
like a kente cloth face mask.
Yeah.
Oh my god, dude, I don't know what it was, but just like 10 minutes before I hopped in here to like do the recording, I just had kufi on the brain. I remember we were talking the other day, and we were looking at like Amazon links to like kufis for sale.
Yeah.
Kufi pilled.
Dude, no, I think I'm kufi pilled, dude. I think I need to get myself a kente cloth kufi and just like wear it to triangulate the powers while we're recording.
We all get one. We all toss it on. It's like the Alex Jones with the foil hat thing.
Right, exactly.
Just take a knee every morning wearing it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Start the day right. Rise and grift.
I'm gonna put a mural on my bedroom wall of the big head scientists.
Yeah.
That head.
That's amazing. No, people ask me, they're like, yo, where's the shirts? Where is it? I'm like, yo, I was just joking. I don't know. I don't know how I'd react if I saw it in real life. If somehow I actually saw it, I'd be tripped the fuck out.
I give him a high five.
Yeah.
Lip pandemic, bro.
But if you saw like a Fed Post shirt,
that would trip me out. But yeah, a Lip Pandemic shirt would really trip me out. I'd be like, damn, man, what? You know what you're doing? You're a walking Fed post.
It's fine, dude. I wear that Mayo masks around still. It's totally fine. The one that's like, just don't vaccinate, don't vote, drink bleach. I wear it around.
What's anyone gonna do? What's anyone, like? Who cares?
Exactly. They just look at me puzzled most of the time. I'm like, yeah,
That boy ain't right.
crazy ass white boy.
Crazy ass white boys wearing a Chris Dorner face mask.
Chris Dorner,
Fucking crazy.
Oh my god.
Oh my fucking god, dude. Yeah, no, we should on the shop page we should have the Koofies labeled as crazy ass white boy hats.
Oh my god. Yeah, no, it's perfect timing because my drop shipping supplier added masks like last month. I've been so I've been putting some designs on those. So like a live pandemic mask would look that would look so good.
Oh my god.
Like,
all right, we gotta for real talk about this because like I've been wanting to do some of that shit, but I know nothing about merch or like doing that. So
That's what. Yeah, I'm just saying. Like, see, you gotta link with Grift and like figure this shit out. Like,
I consult with everyone, so I'm down.
plugged in. Tapped in.
We're just doing the latest episode. It's just going to be a business meeting with
marketing.
The episode art is the Mark Cuban writing down meme. Grifting 101.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing too. Is that like we talked about this before, but like I feel like whatever the grifting, we don't really bring it up that much. Like talking about politicians or media people, we don't really go to that too much. But if we ever do, SLAV will always be like, without a doubt, it'd be like, there's no point in saying that shit. That shit is stupid. What's the point of saying that? So I feel like,
you're outing me here.
Well, no, I think you have a good argument. I mean, you had an interesting argument for it. Was one I haven't heard before, but you were just like, it's like a futile criticism. It's like it's irrelevant, basically.
Oh, that's the essence of why I picked it for the Grift Shop, like as like the name, because it was so like just this. I was sort of lurking around on Twitter like 2016, 2017, 2018, like just seeing what was going on. Just everyone was throwing around the word grift, and it became to mean it started out not meaning much, and it became so ubiquitous that like it lost any meaning that it had.
Absolutely.
And I wanted I've done art, I've drawn my whole life. I wanted a way to get my creative stuff out there, and like you're always going to run into this criticism from bad faith actors, so why not completely fucking own it and just sort of like make a point about how much this word and concept is both like means nothing in reality and is used by just the absolute worst people to attack other people who are probably not acting in good faith themselves, but it's just used by all sides in a disingenuous way, and it's just a sort of like
words have a funny way of doing that and losing their meaning a bit.
That's why I call myself a Nazi, because I'm like, yeah, sure, if you would have called me a Nazi, yeah, bad faith actors call me a Nazi, yeah, sure, okay.
I mean, unironically, totally. Like, it's so weird, man. Like, I've been thinking so much this week just about how like just memification of things is like the ultimate propaganda tool, right? Like you just make it this kind, you just like kind of translate it into this weird realm of like collective inside joke on the internet, and then it just elicits like an eye roll from one group, or like suddenly becomes some weird deranged dog whistle on the right without you realizing. And it's like just all this shit, right? Like the second something goes into the realm of memes, it becomes like horse shit, right? And I love like in like the purest way, like most of the time when people call anyone like a grifter online, it's just this shorthand for being like, you have any kind of incentive to be saying things right now. Totally. Automatically invalidates everything you do. Which right there, like far be it from me to like defend journalists ever, but like investigative journalists that are like going and doing shit that does have quite a bit of utility.
Spotlight shit.
Yeah, exactly. Like unironically, like doing the work requires resources. Like people need to be doing that, right? Nope, completely invalidate that. They're grifters. They're getting a paycheck. That's completely out of the window.
Well,
right?
to me, that just puts them on the level of everyone else, right? Like there's incentive to do the thing that you're doing, so you're doing it.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
These are like self-professed like anti-capitalists, and they're saying that anyone that has any kind of like incentive factoring into their decision is totally not to be trusted. It's like, how do you understand capitalism in the first place?
Well, the thing is, they don't, because it's like if it's like the sort of water we swim in, to use that metaphor, like oftentimes people haven't made that first step to realizing what the system is. They just sort of take it for granted, and then it ends up them thinking that people have these ulterior motives when actually they're just making the system incentivizes certain things, and someone may not be doing something for nefarious purposes, but they may also be getting a paycheck at the same time. And it's just an open avenue to that criticism oftentimes by those sort of people that haven't made that realization about what capitalism is and how what the most basic core of like the exploitation of the system is.
Right. Well, and that gets to like one of the triple S top tier memes is anti-capitalism at a certain point.
Yeah.
Like it's so you just translate it into these like cultural shorthands, and then it basically becomes nothing. Like if someone is anti-capitalist most of the time, it basically is just like a political magic that they believe in. You know what I mean? That like it's just liberalism, where they're just thinking about ideas that are free floating that just kind of magically do shit, and like that's what capitalism is to like 90% of people.
Yeah, the capitalism's just like the bad. It's like people are kind of greedy, so we can end that, and then everything's good. Or like the mode of production doesn't need to change, nothing like that. I'm just anti-capitalist. I'm anti-capitalism and like the people who want to make money off other people. It's like, sure, motherfucker, but like you gotta have a solution to change it and fix it and replace it with something too. Like,
no, you don't understand. Socialism is the Avengers, and capitalism is like Thanos, or like a lot like capitalism is very Slytherin.
See, capitalism thinks it's inevitable, but it isn't.
In a lot of ways, COVID was the Thanos snap when you really think about it.
And Joe Biden's COVID policy is the hammer that's being lifted.
Thor's mighty hammer Mjolnir.
Hammer of Thor, yeah.
Every once in a while, if I just dole out some like actual nerdiness, CRK is just absolutely disgusted by it.
I'm like scraping. Like I don't know much about this stuff either, but I'm just like scraping together the couple references I know. Just assembling a bit in my mind from like the cast off like lib cultural signifiers that you've picked up on.
Because we're a dog shit culture that like who's like our main lore these days is literally just superhero movies. Like we have nothing in shared culture really besides that from the last like decade.
How dare you, sir? That's our mythology, bro.
No. The funny thing is though, is like that woman said that, right? And like I think her main issue was that she wasn't saying it with like the right tone, but like she's not wrong. And like the fact that she isn't wrong is the saddest fucking thing. She said
that it's mythology. Who said this?
Oh, I thought you were there was some woman that literally said that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and everyone was like making fun of her, but the thing is that like she's right.
Well, she said the quiet part out loud.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
yeah, like it reminds me of like the well, I don't know. That's kind of a whole other thing. I was about to get into the Capitol protest, but we can sit on that.
I'm sure we'll loop back around to that at some point.
So I'll pace my
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as far as the grift, I mean, it's sort of like what we were talking about last night with Dumb and Awful. Like it's sort of like I don't really believe in morality, so it's sort of like everybody's just a market actor. And then the best thing that we could do is like, why don't we find mutual incentives of everybody to get more stuff for everybody? Simple as that. Like
mutual
fund
shit.
Yeah, mutual aid. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Mutual aid.
You guys are about to be on some AOC shit in this.
Well, I mean, as far as as far as like the grifting thing, I feel like the only time we've really debated. It was like me and Slav talking about Tucker Carlson, where I'm just like, I don't think of it as like it's not an end all be all thing. Where like, oh yeah, Trump's a grifter. Like, sure, yeah, okay,
yeah,
but like,
it's a stupid like it's to have that be the end of your criticism. Just
exactly.
baby brain.
Right, yeah. That's I think that I totally agree with, because then it's just like, it's like, okay, maybe he's a grifter, but maybe his interests for his own self-interest align with throwing this crumb to these people. So maybe it just lines up like that, and he's still a grifter. Like it's not mutually exclusive. And with the Tucker thing,
maybe he's a grifter and you're a grifter and we're all fucking grifters. So why don't we try to like latch on to some other person that's grifting in the same direction?
It's like the Cuomo. It's like the Cuomo thing where he's like, we're all Muslim, we're all gay. It's like we're all grifters.
It was like that tweet where like Joe Biden is a woman, and Joe Biden is a like POC
easily detect female to male.
That's the end point of liberalism, where like you've lost all meaning. Like it's so identity based that you've lost all meaning of what your identity actually is.
Right. I think the only time it's useful is like, all right, so like you know what their financial incentive is, so you should think about it like that. And them having a financial incentive isn't bad in itself, but what is their financial incentive? So if their incentive is to be with the establishment or the neocons or the neolibs or whatever, you should probably factor that in. That's how I feel. I don't think the grifting insult should just be like,
follow the money, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Follow the fucking money. Where's it going? It's going to make your pockets lighter. So simple as that. Like, just
Lester pilled. Follow the money.
Absolutely. Lester pilled all day.
Hell yeah,
you follow the drugs, you get the drug addicts and the drug pushers. You follow the money, you don't know where the hell you're gonna go.
This is like season 1 pill right now, isn't it? Yeah. He's like
it's all in the grift.
Let's go.
Dude, Lester was honestly kind of the ultimate grifter if you think about it, because he ended up like dating like a hot young lady in the end.
He's more of a groomer.
You got the girl. Yeah, season 1, like problematic age gap, problematic clout gap,
and also power gap between like informant and cop. But we'll look past
oh shit.
That's very true. Inside everyone, there's 2 wolves. One is a groomer and the other is a grifter.
Hold them accountable.
Little old black man, like working on miniatures.
A hot-ass stripper informant falls into his lap. Your case he gets assigned to, like, by accident.
His is a punishment.
Yeah, like, oh, that's true. Yeah, they're like, fuck this unit. Like, this is like McNulty's Wild Goose Chase. We're just gonna plop some drunks and the guy from the pawn shop unit in here.
But you guys, I'm gonna need to rewatch The Wire. It's been brought up.
Let's go.
I finished the rewatch a couple months ago, so it's a little fresh.
CRK told me The Wire has no rewatch value.
Oh my god!
I didn't say that. I just said Sopranos has better rewatch value.
That's true. I think I'm in a Sopranos rewatch right now, and it's like it was the right decision.
Yes.
Like, yes. Yeah. I mean, both. I mean, great show.
You can do both. Hashtag do both.
Yeah, have both. Yeah, you can. Yeah, two minds. You like Galaxy Brain. Do both.
Fucking true gum.
Oh man,
we've retroactively canceled The Wire. It's wild.
Yeah, I think that The Wire is just so fucking dense. It's like a book, right?
Yeah,
and so
totally.
going through it,
novel.
It is exactly. And so like, you like go back through it and it just unfolds more and more every time.
Yeah, there's so much more shit in there that you can pick up on. And then once you know like the nuance of each character, then you can kind of watch the way that it fits into like the city and the role. And it's great.
Yeah, when he was saying where the fuck is Wallace, I really realized that we're all Wallace.
We're all the pawns, that they were talking about with the chess game.
We're all sitting on that couch.
That's crazy deep.
At the end of the day, who hasn't been on that couch in the low rise?
Yeah. In the low rise.
The hot couch in the low rises.
Yeah, we're all just bugs, just doped out, selling shit out the cart. We're all
we're all just grifting off the couch. Fiends coming around the side.
like Bubs selling white T-shirts.
Bubs, yeah.
Yeah, Bubs selling Grift Shop shirts. The bucket hats. He's like putting the hats on the like put the fucking War on Christmas veteran one on. We're snapping a picture of him here, getting some Fed posting going on.
That's the cover of this episode.
I was just thinking that's got to be the cover.
Bubs with a Grift Shop hat. Hell yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, I guess we should also we should talk about the fucking politics? Inauguration, I guess. Yeah, well, I mean, that's not even politics. What the fuck was that?
That's spectacle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
State propaganda event.
Yeah, we talked about it a little on the live stream, but like, I guess we should go over for everybody. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Did you guys have any? Were you even watching? Did it mean anything to you, or just nothing?
I didn't watch a second of it.
I mean, I think I didn't watch any of it either, but I think you hit it right there. Like it was a nation state affirming spectacle of liberal nationalism, or like I think a good way to describe it is like Hamilton nationalism, and actually that poet laureate speech or whatever that everyone was talking about. It literally there were two lines where the person who did it, who is like herself as a product of the whole Harvard, from like $40,000 private pre-K through Harvard through whatever graduate shit. Basically going through the entire liberal cathedral.
The cathedral, let's go.
Yeah. I mean, not to prescribe certain concepts, but it's a good framing. But that was the thing. Like that was the mimetic moment, just in my experience, that stuck with the liberals that I know personally. That was the thing that they were posting about. That was the thing that they were excited about. That poem that was read. And I think it was like 5 minutes long. I'd watched it. The only real section that stuck out to me was there was this quote that sort of like embodies the sort of like, I guess, like merger between the liberals and the security state that we're witnessing, and the sort of like harnessing of this imperial power. So the quote is, "If we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and chains our children's birthright."
How is that not the most sinister shit?
That's like dystopian as hell.
Scary as shit. Like,
that's literally like some shit out of like a dystopian youth novel. Like literally like the Hunger Games shit that Lady Gaga was wearing.
Yeah, no, my God, right? Like, oh my God, I was going to bring that up at some point. Like, literally that direct YA reference combined with the fact that like she was wearing more so the aesthetics of like the bad guys in that series.
Yeah, totally.
It's like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah, they're so on the nose about it. It's just crazy, man.
Yeah, that speech was honestly, I did like tune in the background, like what was going on. And like, yeah, that speech was just like, honestly, I can't even joke too much about it. It was honestly depressing. Like the fucking, like, yeah, I didn't catch the Hamilton references because I've never seen that shit because I'm a normal warm-blooded human being.
Yeah, I haven't seen that shit either.
But that shit, like, yeah, I just, later on, I was just thinking like, the BLM thing, like $10.6 billion was donated to BLM this year, like 2020. Yeah, and that's where it ended up.
Wait, like what is that money? Like what is that money? Does anybody know? Like, is anyone tracking this?
Follow the money.
Follow the money. Like, what's? I mean, it's just a good question. Like, what is that? Where's that money going?
Well, it definitely didn't go to black people. It didn't go to black people. That's for sure.
I got a pretty good idea, honestly. Like, I think that the majority of that shit. I mean, okay, first of all, like they gotta use some of it in a clearly legit way that holds up to like passing scrutiny.
Nonprofits.
So yeah, well, no, not even like I'm sure that in some way it will be, some of the money will be used for some of the stated intentions, right? But like more than anything in my mind, like most of that shit just went into, like you said, like nonprofit NGO Leviathan bullshit, and it's just money for create work programs for just overeducated people. That's what that is.
They're paying the people they had there at the protest, signing people up to fucking vote or whatever the hell, and they're getting giant grants for those organizations, and
That's a fucking tragedy. Like $10 billion or whatever. Imagine if that was divided among like the biggest American cities, like those or the communities that are most affected by the clear energy behind the protest, like the issues of that. Like that's a fucking crime.
Instead, those areas are ravaged because like people from not even living in those areas come in from the suburbs, and then they just protest and do their LARP there for a while, bust up some poor people's shit, and then they leave and go back home. And these people are left with worse conditions than they had in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, the website for BLM goes to Act Blue. Like, that's a real thing. Like, it goes to Act Blue, which is the thing that, if you donated to Bernie, went to Act Blue. And all that shit, where it went to get Queen Kamala into the office in Tim's, and who incorporates black people. You know what I mean? So it's just that's where it all. So that's why it was like depressing to me. Like, that's where it all went. That's where it all ended up. Everything. It all got funneled to that. Like, that's what you get for what you. And yeah, everybody. I just want to say for like whoever, like anybody who was like in the summer just like scolding people like about being critical of BLM at all. Like, you can suck my dick. That's just it. You can suck my dick, suck my nuts, because that shit. Like, I remember all summer it was just mad. Like, you couldn't say shit. People were on edge. And it was like, yeah, but how about we slow down and figure out what the fuck, what's this even going to? What are we doing? Like, what's the goals? Like, couldn't even do that.
I'll admit, I was like, while that shit was going down this summer, I was super hyped and some, like just, on the fucking internet, just like posting. Like, it was a fun time and a fun thing to sort of like support. And like, obviously, like, that there's a certain level of like LARPing to that if you're doing that stuff online. But like, it's just so sad that it was the most public protest in this country since at least the late 60s. And they got no policy changes out of it. They got nothing. They got fucking nothing. Like, at least in the 60s, you got some fucking like, you got civil rights acts. You got shit that you had the people on the inside. They're actually like, that shit actually affected people materially, like the changes from that movement.
But they had no material demands. Like, there's
exactly the whole that's the tragedy from the start.
Well, like, the funny thing is like, we're talking about the 60s, and like it'll end up being much like the 60s protest movement too, in that like the biggest accomplishment of it will be laying the groundwork for just like, I mean, in the 60s,
new generation.
Well, or just, I mean, the 60s laid the groundwork for neoliberalism, and
a new generation of neoliberal leaders.
They killed the leaders before they truly questioned. They truly built the public mass to challenge the system, like they were trying to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, like the other day when it was like MLK Day, I like just had like a few like pill dispenser moments like going around, just like having people like bring it up to me. And like, I'm in Seattle, so like it's like not uncommon to just like stumble into these conversations fucking constantly, and people just like, again, just being like, well, and the main takeaway from MLK's death is that white supremacy is just this monster that always needs to be opposed throughout history. It's like, motherfucker, like they killed him.
The feds killed him.
No, exactly. Like the feds were coming after him because he was starting to talk about some base shit. Like, it wasn't.
As soon as he was planning a poor people's march on DC, he was trying to get like 1 million working class people of no matter what the fuck your race was, all marching and occupying DC all over the malls, all over everywhere, to show like, these are the poor people of this country. This is how they're being left behind. That's when they pulled the trigger.
Yeah, they had a fucking sanitation march in fucking Memphis or whatever, and like, I mean, like, you think that Fed was thinking in his head like, we gotta end fucking this is for white supremacy, like this fucking Chad. That's what he's thinking. No, of course not.
MLK is going to sleep with my wife. I hate him. Like, just like crazy, deranged, individualistic level bigotry that just like doesn't make any fucking sense when you're putting it up as like a primary like explanatory force of history on a grand scheme. What the fuck are you talking about, dude? Like, some guy had like sorry, I'm just
it exists, but its primary function is a tool used by those in power to get what they want. So they employ it for these means, but and manipulate the individual racists on the strings, but they may not harbor those views on a personal level themselves. But it's a tool in the elite's arsenal to divide the people who otherwise might band together and actually like dethrone them.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, it reminds me of like earlier CRK was saying like you don't believe in morality, right? And it's like I wouldn't word my position that way necessarily, right? But when we're talking about like fucking politics, right? Like, yeah, I guess morality like exists to some degree in like my view or ontology or whatever you want to call it of politics, but it's such a minute, like small factor when we're talking about just like a zoomed out bird's eye view of this huge tectonic shifts, right? Like I don't know why the fuck I would
one
worry.
thread to the tapestry.
Well, exactly. It's like it's one tiny thread in like compared to like huge hempen rope that like people like tie off tanker ships with. I don't know if they tie off tanker ships with hempen rope anymore. It's like the 1910s. But like versus it's like a thread versus like a huge fucking rope that like represents like, I don't know, you could understand fucking capitalist relations, industry, understanding the world of NGOs, or even just how the fucking government works and power generally. But like you're thinking about, you're fixated on this fetish of like morality. Like, what are you talking about?
No, that's the thing. It's like, there's just this idea that like, look, they killed him because he was a threat to their pockets, to their power. It's really that simple. They don't really care if he's black. He could have been white. They do this. They killed white people in the 60s that were talking that shit too. They did this. They don't care. And
they shot Huey Long.
In the fucking turn of the 20th century, they were bombing white strike workers, like striking workers with airplanes. Like the U.S. Army was shooting like striking workers. That didn't matter what fucking color they were. They were doing mass murder to workers who were threatening their pockets. It's like it's 125 years ago. It's like it's nothing in the long scope of history. It's shit's the same system. It's the same thing.
At the very least, we can hope for the woman, the people flying those planes, bombing workers, to be women.
Yeah.
The drones that will shoot the missiles are piloted by women on the ground.
Let's trans women of color.
Pink controllers and cat ears for them all.
No, yeah, I tell like the right wingers the same thing. It's like, they'll be like, oh yeah, they hate us because we're white. I tell them like, they don't hate you because you're white. They don't really give a fuck what race you are. Like they just hate you because you're a liability. You hurt their pockets. You're just an inconvenience. You're a burden. That's all you are. Like you're a source for wealth extraction, and you're a burden and you're a liability. That's it. There's nothing. It's not that deep. They don't care what race you are. They treat us everybody the same. So it's like, it's just a weird mindset to just explain everything away as like, they hate us. They did this because we're black. They hate us because we're white. It's like, nah, dude. Like it's not that. Like they don't believe that shit. Like they're too smart to think that way anyways. Like they don't care about that shit. It doesn't mean anything.
They don't need to think like that way. They have no need for ideology like that because they have no proximity to scarcity or anything to where they like, where it's a justification measure for the shitty quality of their life.
Right.
Yeah, like that, the sort of blatant like first degree face-to-face racism is an organizing tool for certain groups when there are scarce resources on the ground. But that's just not the case for them. Completely different ballpark.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
No, that's the whole thing. Is it's like outright bigotry is for the proles.
Yeah,
and that's who it's always been for.
Calculated evilness is for them.
Yeah, and I mean it even like, in a really vague way too. Like I don't really think that like Dick Cheney like hated fucking people in the Middle East. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't give a fuck. The whole problem was that he just didn't give a fuck about them, right? But you get some, they
impeded his access to the oil wells.
Exactly. That's it.
Halliburton's access to the oil wells there. Yeah. They were an obstacle that stood in the way.
No, exactly. They're just speed bumps, right?
Exactly.
But then you have the tards that are like, you got people, on the ground doing the work. But I don't really give a shit about that. I don't really give a flying fuck about what the guy who's getting, fucked by his boss working a minimum wage job has to say about, some just crazy, insane racist shit. Like I genuinely don't think that is even a meaningful consideration.
Yeah. Like I don't want to hear it, but I'm not going to think about like focusing on that as a political project combating that. Like,
yeah, it's like, I think it's wrong. Right. But like, do I think that that's a political issue? Absolutely not. I literally don't. I literally don't think that that's in that same like realm, like I was talking about, of like a big, kind of tectonic bird's eye view of of everything. Yeah, I mean, wrong think isn't really high up there.
I mean, like, if it's interesting because, like, you're like in the actual programs, the sort of like anti-racial action or rhetoric or narratives that are coming out of like the liberal camp, and because that's the sort of source of their rhetorical, morality-based power and whatnot, or they have over people. They don't really like talk about actual programs to combat that sort of face-to-face racism you're talking about. But the way it's sort of, I think, at least from my impression, the way it sort of propagates itself is through a sort of like backdrop to everything. Like that's the sort of like implicit state of the world in their mind, and that's the thing they're combating because they know like it's just like I feel like maybe that was more the focus in like the I don't know. At some point, you got the blatant racism sort of out of the system in a way that like you can focus more on using it disingenuously when the goal has already been achieved. Totally. For the most part, like it's that war, like the long liberal cultural war has been won for the most part, and now they're just sort of like fighting the same battles over and over again. They've already won these battles, but they're doing it because they have nothing else. Because if they were to pursue a material project, it would conflict the interests of the people who fund them. So it's like they're fighting these same battles over and over again to diminishing returns, and it's just a matter of like, are the conditions on the ground going to get bad enough so that people actually wake up and rebel against the regime that we're dealing with in that fact.
Right. That's the whole thing. It comes back around to like the point that comes up every once in a while, which is like, I mean, this lens of politics, this flavor of like social justice, like more than anything, just kind of like focuses on like the kind of like petty, pedantic, just like little bullshit social norms of like bourgeois people, right? Like Kamala. I feel like COH said this the other day, or somebody. I feel like it was COH talking about like, Kamala talking about like she's this really brave person, like facing adversity when like really that all that ever is meant is like maybe like somebody kind of talking over her in a business meeting or something, right? Like this shit doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't fucking matter at all. And it doesn't have any place in political discussions, right? It's not a tectonic shift if like Brad doesn't listen quite closely enough to women or not. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? This like honestly, Bitchgate with AOC was like the best example of this.
Oh yeah,
right?
It's a perfect example. Yeah,
it's like, where's my fucking money?
Yeah.
Where's my money?
If you're trying to win people over to your side, it's probably not best to sell shirts that say like drink water and don't be racist. Like, what's the point of wearing that? Like, what's the point of wearing that in public and couple it with like you just like crying about being in danger when you should, if those were actually your enemy, if those people were actually coming to kill you, you should be fucking defiant in their face. Be like, yo, you tried to kill me, you didn't fucking do it. You should be calling him a bitch. Yeah, you should call them a bitch because they didn't achieve it. If they were actually coming in there to fuck you up and kill you, which I mean, maybe some of them were, but there was so many levels between them getting at that sort of level of access for that to be a possibility. Why is your mindset not like I mean, it's just the classic difference between how liberals think and what just immediately go into the victimization mindset. It's tough to picture that being a response, but it's like you got to like step outside of yourself to put yourself in these other people's shoes and think like, okay, why are they pursuing this rhetorical avenue when it feels very inhuman to do so.
No, yeah, I mean, look, a lot of this shit, like we were trying to talk about this last night with Don Awful. It's just sort of like people will be like, oh, or people with bad intentions or whatever. It's just like that's not the thing. Like it's just like it's just incentives. That's all it is. And they know that like this is for the plebs. They know all this ideological shit and this race war shit is for the plebs. It's not for them. I'm around like these elite people in New York City. Like they're very tolerant and diverse. They don't give a fuck about that shit. They're not sitting up like plotting white supremacy or how to kill all white people. Like they don't plan that. That's not what they do. They don't care. They don't care about you. Like if people are just so obsessed with like getting their cultural enemy defeated, they'll give whatever tools they can to these people in power to punish their enemy. and then they get shocked when it happens to them. And it's just like, and I'm not talking about the like libs who are like whatever. I'm talking about people, actual underclass people of different groups, identity groups or whatever. Like, you're all getting beat, and all they can do is just this race to the bottom of like, well, why don't you beat them harder? Like the Capitol raid, it was just like, well, you kill black people, why don't you kill those white people too? It's like, whoa, like, is that really what you want? Like, you want them to just kill all of us? Like, is that really the goal? Like, it's a race to the bottom, and it's just like, it's just, they don't care about that. They don't care about you. They don't care that you're white or black. Like, it doesn't mean anything to them. You're all just like the same.
Yeah, you're resources to them, and liabilities.
It was useful for them to have that black cop Eugene Goodman to be the face of the resistance against them. That was used. There was people taking the hashtag ACAB out of there was like this campaign to like put like ACAB and hashtag Eugene Goodman in your bio or whatever.
ACAB so except for Eugene.
Yeah. It was somehow like intertwined in the way the liberals on online were sort of like navigating like the contradictions of that situation.
Really?
That's the perfect lib slogan, right? You like it's just like my ideal with an asterisk, and the asterisk is like denoting like depending on the news cycle of the week.
Yeah, it's like I think like Amy Schumer posted there's someone posted like a side by side of her like, you know, fuck around and find out post from this summer, and then her post celebrating black cop Eugene Goodman defending the Capitol with his baton against the QAnon shaman.
Dude, all the fucking neoliberals were like, respect our troops, like they did this to our troops, like 9/11, like they just went full neocon mode.
Yeah. You know, like I think the pod johns are like, this is worse than 9/11. Like this is a worse security failure than 9/11.
Dude, like it's funny. You talk about people talk about like the lowest form of political discourse is pointing out hypocrisy, right? And like and that's a pretty good one. But I've got a little addition to add there, and I think it's a strain of pointing out hypocrisy. This race to the bottom, fucking psychotic bullshit of scrambling to try to have the representatives of like your political opponents labeled a fucking terrorist group.
Yeah.
It's the funniest fucking thing. Like Antifa's terrorists. Oh, the Capitol protesters and Proud Boys are terrorists, and it's like it's just
BLM are terrorists. Yeah.
Scrambling to get like legal go ahead so that the state can just get away with torturing and indefinitely detaining your fucking your political competition.
It drives me fucking insane. It drives me insane because this is like
that's some serious dystopian shit, dude.
It's one of the main reasons I was a fucking like lib leftist in the aughts, was just like, yeah, I don't like this war on terror shit. I don't like this fucking neocon bullshit. I hate this shit. And now I just watched like AOC and all these like other like Dems just say shit that is the same thing. It's the same exact thing. And they're just like, yeah, we need to like, and you know, Obama fucking I posted about this. He killed fucking 16-year-old kid who's an American citizen overseas under, you know, suspicions of working with terrorist networks. Like, you have no rights. So like, I don't get why people are so quick to like, again, this is a cultural enemy thing, like giving a weapon to the elite to batter your enemies. Like, yeah, you want to let them do that, and it's like, yo, they'll kill like an American citizen for nothing.
Yeah,
because you're a terrorist. You have no rights then. So it's like, why would you want to give them that power if they can make you all terrorists? Like, why would you want that?
And that's the whole fucking thing too. It's like these people are all fucking libs, right? Like this isn't about like, oh, I think the QAnon shaman is some like really, you know, misunderstood soul or whatever. Like, I certainly don't hate him as much as like the average lib do. I'm not really scared of him at all.
Right.
He's a fucking clown, but he was there to like make content. You know,
he's a fucking influencer, like AOC, basically, right?
Yeah. Same thing. Yeah, it was like influencers menacing other influencers. It was like a MAGA pop-up shop that intruded on like the fucking Capitol, the U.S. Congress doing their nation state building.
The New York Times pop-up shop.
No, next time we're gonna have some Japanese booth babes there, like fucking Comic-Con or something. No, fucking like this whole idea that like liberals always like to bandy about of like, oh, like everyone on the left thinks in systems now. We're all thinking in systems, and there's systems of oppression and all that. And then like in the same breath, they're just like, oh no, like this case to case basis, these people are bad, and I want you to be able to just waterboard Jimmy from down the street. And I don't see how giving this Leviathan that casts a shadow over my entire life will have any negative effects whatsoever.
Not all the time. You know what they say? They say, well, I don't care. I'm like, yo, they're like, doing all this censorship. They're doing all this like terrorist designation shit. Like, so you have a problem with that? And they're just like, I don't care. I have no horse in this race. I don't care. And again, like I said this before, like if you have no horse in the race between two opposing groups and one of them's clearly more powerful, you're siding with the more powerful one. That's really what it is. You're siding with the elite. Like, there's no other way to describe that.
First they came for Parler.
Yeah. First they came for Alex Jones, and I laughed and I made memes, and now he can't speak for me.
and now Alex Jones is decrying QAnon because they stole his business model. He's like, yo, I'm fucking sick of these QAnon people, all these fucking witches and warlocks and shaman and shit. Like, but he's probably like QAnon is affecting his bag. Like that's why he's sort of aligning himself against them now. But
incentives.
It'll be interesting to see where like the right wing media ecosystem goes after this, because
I hope Alex Jones still has a good stake in it. I love Alex Jones to death, man.
I fucking love that guy. Absolutely. Mad fucking funny. He's the funniest dude in politics, hands down, easily.
Yeah. And he's like generally like a lot of his like just general conceptions are correct. I mean, like a lot of the stuff that he says, like there's crazy shit, obviously, but like, no, these people are evil. Like these people are in the woods wearing hoods. You don't even need, like, it's just a fact. Like these people are sick and like, he's right.
He put in the work. He did the work to like who else has gone with a recording device and show like, I mean that Bohemian Grove mall shit. It's some nerdy ass like theater kid fruity shit. Like it's not like it's like both like the aesthetics are sinister, but at the core it's very lame. But it's the like I think it's more it says more about the people than any sort of like subjective judgment of the actual like thing itself does.
Yeah, and the collection of power that's gathered there, like in this like secret club where like like different powerful people that control different industries as well as politicians and shit like that. Like it just shows that there is no real divide amongst those people. Like, and like he's the person who went and did that, and then people act like he was crazy for saying that shit, and he's like, no, look at my goddamn documentary, and they're like, nah, and like of course you're gonna end up being kind of crazy after that. Like you're gonna end up being the guy who like no one ever takes seriously, and you're gonna just cling into shit that like you think is true, and like a bunch of the times you're gonna be right, even if some of the times you're just absurdly wrong, like thinking that like higher CO2 levels is good because it's re-terraforming the planet. Like what the fuck, dude?
Joe, it's carbon.
Carbon. We're carbon, Joe.
we're carbon, Joe. The globalists, they want to tell you that carbon is bad. They are telling you humans are bad. Yeah, they're saying you're bad.
They're anti-human. They are devils. They're Satanists.
But he's right.
He did get a lot of like sort of casual normies into conspiracy thinking. Like he was sort of like OG for that. Like honestly, like among the sort of like fail son set, a good thing to become, like of the types you can become out of that situation, like a sort of good natured like conspiracy guy is like, that's a good outcome.
Totally. And that's the thing.
It could be worse. It could be a lot worse.
The ultimate irony here is that this is like the crowd that is constantly cloaking themselves in the like, we just want everyone to be able to let their freak flag fly, you know, and like embrace being different and all of that. Like, look at the actual fucking weirdos that we used to be able to kind of like enjoy and appreciate, and they're just like, this is fucking dangerous. I feel unsafe. like actual fucking weirdness is like looked at as like a fucking like virus that needs to be like ejected from the system at all costs. Oh my fucking god! Like you know what? Alex Jones is basically just like one of the many subsections of like new age Gen X weirdos.
Totally,
that's just all it is, dude. That's all it fucking is.
He needs the Clockwork Orange treatment. He needs to get corrected. You know what I mean? Like you can't do that.
Send him to the camps.
Clip his eyes open and make him watch Lizzo for 5 hours.
Yeah. He's doing it to himself. He's doing it to himself because he was at that the Capitol storming with a megaphone telling people to hold back, to not storm. Like he was against the tide. So like he's clearly like he's found his breaking point, and he's not, and like it's moving beyond him. Like whatever he started and played a role in, like it's moving beyond like what he's comfortable for. And it's just, that was a sort of like interesting just moment right there, where it's sort of like the stuff he's been talking about, like the sort of like the end product of it was actually being realized. Like the people who were storming the Capitol, they thought that was the storm. They thought the storm was happening right then, and it seemed like it was for them. Like no matter, like obviously they were never going to stop the vote. Like they were never going to stop the certification of the electoral process. But to them, they had belief, and they had and that was the reason that they kept kept up in the face of the resistance, you know?
Yeah, that's where intuitions are right, or in the general right direction, but details are fuzzy. You got to work on it. And like Alex Jones, like to me, he's like Captain Obvious, you know, R.I.P. Captain Obvious. Like, you got the right idea. You're in the right direction. You just, you know, the details.
You gotta polish it down, bro. You can't make that raw shit.
You're delivering just a little bit.
Like the frogs turning gay. Like, what's the point of that? It's a little off base. It's a little not like, you gotta streamline the narrative. Like, you got all these bits you got to prune off the side.
Right. The frogs gay thing is funny because that's like just essentially the fucking like antagonist motivation in Doctor Strangelove, right? I'm just like the communists are tampering with our precious fluids.
Our body chemistry is
maybe there's something to that. I don't know. It's like there's enough there to make it a trope, I guess. But
I think it kind of ties into like the whole transhumanism thing, and like I think that's kind of like a strong tenet amongst that type of like new agey kind of conspiracy theorist type Gen X kind of market. Even though like transhumanism is like something that's happening, and it's like Elon Musk is actively talking about putting chips in people's brains and shit, like that's a real thing. Right. But I think that extension of like the frogs and everything like that, and like the bodily fluids, and like they're turning us into like fem cells or whatever the hell. I think that is like to a degree just kind of a extreme reaction to the general transhumanism trend that's happening.
It's some psychosexual shit going on at like a sort of like base level.
Oh yeah. Well, I definitely think like I think that like masculinity is clearly like a lot less compatible with like modernity, and so I think that that's also kind of part of it. Is just this like it would like probably why all of these people kind of independently all come up with this idea that like the powers that be are interested in just like cutting your sack off.
Because they're taking away your ability to provide for yourself and do like the typical shit that you would do, like that's considered traditionally masculine, like in a traditional sense. Because like you can't actually go out and like provide shit and make shit for your family anymore. You're just going to buy it on Amazon.
Exactly. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, like most people don't have systems level thinking too, so that when there are these sort of like narratives floating around in the ether, and if someone can sort of like coalesce these different tendencies into something that makes sense to people, boom! Like if they hit right on that core of the issue, like we're talking about with the way masculinity is incompatible, like a healthy, like we like the toxic or quote unquote toxic beforehand masculinity is incompatible with our current state state of affairs in terms of like bourgeois liberal society that they expect is the norm. And so then instead of offering like a healthy masculine alternative, it's this just sort of like it leaves it up in the air for people to grab onto these figures who can coalesce these narratives out of the ether because they have this instinct for what's going on, you know, and then people get funneled down these tracks, and you know the actual state of affairs isn't improved at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's why Jordan B. Peterson popped off, and it's like you create a void, and then there's a lot of dudes who just feel like don't know what they're supposed to do or how to function in the society, and then they go towards that. I mean, this is why I always say like the right, like the id pool thing, like as much as I don't agree with it, like I get why they feel that way. Like if Jones is saying all this stuff and like what Sea just saying, like this anti-human shit they're doing, and you justify it as like, oh, they're doing this because they're Satanists and they want to destroy humanity for destroying humanity's sake or whatever. Like, I get why you think that. I think that's dumb, but I get why you think. I mean, if you look around, yeah, of course you're gonna think that. But like, obviously, this is the thing: is like they're not trying to destroy you because you're white or because they hate masculinity or because like they're trying to, you know, make everyone effeminate. Like that's not the goal. Like it's just a tool.
Right.
That's just a tool to get more money and more power. That's it. That's it. Like this, you can't mystify it and make it seem like they're like sitting up all night thinking about how to cut your balls off. Like that's not how it works.
And it's also an ideology for hammering in the status quo. Like so, like it's like SLAV saying it's not compatible with neoliberalism. So like they just need to try to like make it so it doesn't exist and try to like make it seem as though it's not favorable because it's not something that can go along with the current mode.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's like some like Illuminati meeting where like Obama's like talking. There's like a shadow cast over his face. He's like, "We're all gonna give some folks some pussies." Like, what the fuck? Yeah. I was talking to somebody the other day. I was talking to somebody the other day about like the COVID vaccine, and like we had talked about it on the stream recently, and I said like I don't trust that shit just because the one lesson everywhere in the world this last year has been to just instinctively not trust anything.
Totally.
But as far as people being like, you know, like you're gonna grow up a fucking pussy out of your foot, or they're gonna use it to like they're gonna use it to like kill the parts of the population, right? Like honestly, like that's where I think like the kind of maybe not like more recent Land shit, but like that Nick Land kind of framing of just like, well, capitalism's just like a big feedback loop. So this doesn't need to be that complicated. Like, where in the feedback loop are drug companies motivated to fucking kill everybody with their fucking vaccine? Like give me an answer to that. If you can't find an answer, then I really wouldn't worry about that. You know what I mean?
But a chip in a vaccine, that's not going to kill you. That's going to stay there. That's going to feed data back to the central bureau. No, this is very unactionable. Yeah, but like that's like obviously there's you know, Bill Gates, it probably isn't putting a chip in the COVID vaccine, but it gets at like there may not be stuff to kill us. Like there may not be things in the COVID vaccine that are designed to hurt people, but it just gets at the way the entire process is completely arbitrary. Like people do have adverse side effects, but like and it's not right for everybody. But like it's it gets at how out of the hands of the common people it is. You know,
the killing off in eugenics happened. That phase was the COVID itself, not the vaccine. Like, you know?
No, it's really the perfect example. Is that vaccine thing of like the fear that I've never been like, oh yeah, they're just going to euthanize everybody, or you know, black people, like they're going to euthanize black people, they're going to euthanize MAGA people. It's part of this whole thing we're talking about, this Disneyland, you know, black and white, good and evil fantasy world that the neocons had about the terrorists in the 2000s. Like there is no good and evil. Like that's not how this shit works. And it's just like they're not trying to kill you just to kill you. You know what I mean? And they're not going to put a chip in you. That's too complicated. But they might use it for like social credit. They might use it in a way where like, oh, if you haven't been, there's already this stuff where if you're not vaccinated, you can't work at certain places. Like you won't be able to do certain things. Like they might use it to exclude you from the market in some subtle ways. Like
there's also precedent in the past for like the government and pharmaceutical companies working step in step and doctors to sterilize people and on like populations that are deemed unproductive in the past, like within our country. So there's precedent for that. So like that. That's where like, a lot of this comes from.
Right next door in Vermont here, there was like a eugenics program. I think that was like active until the 20th century, early 20th century.
Oh yeah.
And like, and like this stuff is like, there's a history of the elites using medical, the medical infrastructure to pursue their own ends. And I like you said, I think there's fully going to be a sort of stratified society now developing. Like, oh, do you have your COVID vaccine ID card? Oh, you can't have access to this building. You can't get into this privileged space where you're plugged into the transfer of capital to you.
I mean, I'm already seeing that. Like, I like to go to concerts and I play live music and gig and stuff. And like, I'm seeing online, there's a company called Live Nation, and they own like a lot of the venues around the country.
They gouge people's tickets.
Totally.
So you pay those fucking like fees and shit. I'm like, it's fucking.
They just recently put out an announcement that they're going to, in order to reopen by 2022 in all of their venues, they're going to start requiring digital verification of a COVID vaccine to enter the venue just to see a goddamn concert.
Mark of the beast. Mark of the beast. No, I mean, what I'm saying is it's like
QR code.
Yeah. It's like, you know, there's a thin line between like conspiratorial thinking and naivete, and I think you're naive if you don't have a little bit of skepticism. You're just like, why would they do that? I don't doubt anything. Like the people that like they associate like anti-vax fears with like wine moms, suburban wine moms. It's like, yo, a lot of Hotep black people are terrified of vaccines because of fucking Tuskegee experiment. Yep. And but like they'll think of it as like, oh, they just want to destroy the black. Like, Cuba wants to destroy the black man. Like that's the whole reason. But I mean, it's like no, dude. It's just like they want to control all of us. They want us all more easily controlled, and that's it's as simple as that. And already with this double standard thing, like I'm in New York and I've said it before, but like if you're rich, if you're bougie, like you're indoors, you're chilling, 6-7 people indoors, no mask, like the rules don't apply to you. But then you make fun of these people in the South who like went to go for a hike and you shame them for it. So it's like, we're already seeing that. So if this extends to a thing where it's like only the bougie people have the access and the vaccine and these regular people don't, I mean, is that a stretch? Is that crazy? That's not crazy to me. It seems like, very logical. It seems like what would happen. It's already happening.
It's not going to be talked about in the media at all. That's not. No. You're not going to see that narrative outside of people on Twitter talking about like just the disparities of this shit.
Yeah, and it's troubling too when it's only the right wingers or like Alex Jones people that say this shit, and then they just cast it away. It's like, oh, if you say anything like this, you must be one of them. You must believe in 5G and all this stuff. It's like, damn, what if I'm just like, hey, it's weird that the flu like death has gone down to 0. That's kind of crazy. Isn't that a little weird? Like, isn't that weird that we had this crash and now it's just explained away and no one talks about it? Like, you say that and it's like, oh, so you believe in 5G? You have a high. You're Alex Jones. Like,
you're a Proud Boy.
Yeah, they just use it to collapse everything.
This is what all of the fake news stuff is. Like at the end of the day, it is just being like, the most dangerous thing that an average person can do is like look out for information and then kind of try to like piece together their own narratives. Right? It reminds me of like once companies stopped like selling products to people out of like necessity and like products that could like last a long time, they just like get you on this fucking treadmill of like, oh well, we're just gonna sell you some fucking dishwasher that you can't fucking fix yourself, so you barely even fucking own it to begin with, right? And like and so you're the American public is just nothing but consumers, right? And one of the worst things you could do is just like learn how to fucking make things yourself. Or like another, like a really common example of this is like people growing their own weed, right? Pharmaceutical companies obviously don't fucking want them doing that, right? And it's like, oh my God, like you're home growing your own fucking meta narratives about the world and explanations for what's happening. Like that's essentially terrorism. That's essentially. And you can't tell me it's not, because if you tell me it's not, you're probably a terrorist too, and I'm going to turn you in for $75,000 from the FBI.
Yeah, that's what all this AOC like hammering Zuckerberg of like, hey, there's fake news. You need to stop this. There's people who are like believing fake news. It's like, I always used to think, even as a leftist, I was like, shit, maybe it's just some fake shit. Like, why don't you let people use some critical thinking and figure out for themselves. But no, you can't allow that. People can't think for themselves. So you gotta.
They think people are zombies that are like controlled by the stimuli that they have. Like all evidence points to all of those Russian disinformation campaigns as being just like a couple Facebook memes and whatnot. Like it had, but like compared to the broader sphere of what Trump was doing to internet culture vis-a-vis Hillary in that particular time, in that particular like instance as an outsider, like whatever the fucking Russians were doing, it had no effect compared to the overall trends. It was just like one of many different like inputs into what the fuck was going, like the consciousness that was propelling the momentum of like what ended up winning him the election.
I think a succinct way to think about this, like whole like fake news and like them being able to label stuff that way, is that all of ideology is like ideologies individually are a commodity now. So like ideology as a whole is a marketplace. And if you're buying or making your own ideology, local producing your own ideology, or getting it from alternative sources that are not the main major corporate producers of that ideology, then you are limiting the market share of those people who are practicing and preaching that ideology. So they're going to try to embargo any type of source that you can get these alternative ideologies, these alternative commodities from.
Right. Good old fashioned homemade ideology like Graham used to make back in Sicily. I mean, this is why I think that like I mean, ultimately, like words in this landscape are like really difficult. So like, it depends on like what people mean by this term. But like, I'm sympathetic towards trad stuff in a lot of ways because, and I know that a lot of people are, whether they acknowledge it or not, because it's the same thing as like when people like kind of share like sort of ironic like Islam memes, right? It's like
inshallah, comment that as well. Yeah, I mean, I've done it. You know
who's getting that nice fresh handmade out of the oven like grandma's homemade pie crust ideology? People in like traditional communities that like aren't just being pointed in whatever direction capital wants them to be this week.
Right.
And I was not raised religious. I can't totally rewire my brain to do that. I'm interested in that stuff, but like you have to acknowledge.
I don't think you should.
Like, what was that?
I definitely don't think you should try to want to rewire your brain to become religious if you're not already.
Well, I
see the utility in it for sure because I was raised religious.
If there are local systems that like traffic in these sort of these human bonding mechanisms, if it's natural for you to tap into that, then it's often can be beneficial. Like if that's the scenario that you find yourself in, it's Absolutely. Like there's not a one fits all scenario to people actually building solidarity. Like if we're going to use again, like language is tough and these words get memed, but that's sort of what it comes down to.
Absolutely. It's the sort of I don't want to like you don't want to indoctrinate yourself to where like 5 years from now you're somebody who's like, dude, I swear to God, like if my son was gay, I would fucking punch him in the face, right? But like it would be kind of nice to have an alternative to just like instead of just like sitting at home eating the fucking Uber Eats meal that was just brought to you and watching
it would be nice to have an alternative to the New Yorker cover.
No, exactly. You're waiting
in your apartment.
You're waiting for your new issue of the New Yorker. You're watching Dr. Fauci's live stream and you're eating a fucking bug burger that was brought to you by some underpaid Somalian fucking feudal serf.
That's the thing. I mean, they really want this like this monoculture thing of just like, like when BLM was going on, it was just like if you were like, hey, what's I've got some questions about this, or like why the funds are going to like these bail funds are like only like a small fraction only goes to actual bail funds. Like if you say all that, then it's just like, well, I don't know where you're getting your information from. What are your sources? Where did you get that from? Yeah, can I get a citation, please? It's just like it's like, oh, are you not subscribed to the New York Times? Like all of it is bottleneck into this small, like narrow thing. And if you're not in that thing, if you're not getting it from there,
unethical consumption.
Exactly. And if you're not getting it just from this like bottleneck, then like you're a crazy tinfoil hat person. It's like, damn, like, do I have to pick between being a wide-eyed, completely oblivious, naive lib and being like a crazy contrarian? Is that the two choices that there are? Like, if you deviate a little bit, you're just an edgelord. Is that what? I just, it's one of the most amazing things that happens, where it's just like, if you slightly question anything or have like a healthy ounce of skepticism for anything,
yeah,
you must.
I mean, that's the territory I ride online, because like I would not consider myself an edgelord to any degree. Like, I don't try to go out of my way to shock people or to make super edgy posts, but the sort of the hilarious pushback I've run into on certain just sort of very innocuous jokes is both like hilarious, and they don't realize they're spreading my brand, so we'll just let them keep doing that. But you know, like every time you screen cap me, you're putting more grift out into the online ecosystem. So
dude, I don't know,
just keep doing that.
I don't know if you guys are have had like experience with this in particular, but like there's certain issues that like you know, I've said before like recently about like the Capitol protest, like the libs are like the antibodies, right? And like something came into the system and questioned the legitimacy of powers of the ruling order's claim to power. And so like you need your antibodies go through and they fucking route them out to like maintain legitimacy, right? It's like how a body would work, right? And like that's like all over, right? And one way that I see like kind of day in day out is that there's kind of like there's different tiers of like things that if you just like bring it up, there is just kind of like a very acute and dramatic response that you'll get, right?
A lib immunoresponse.
Yeah, exactly. An immunoresponse from the
that's some white blood cells out there.
Yeah,
no, exactly. Like
emphasis on white, yeah.
Right-wingers call them.
It's online, they probably, yeah.
Right-wingers call them,
no matter what their avatar is.
It's like there's the meme of like NPCs, but like I don't think the NPC is like the right way of putting it. It's like they are like white blood cells. They're like antibodies, and like the biggest thing that's so funny to me, right, is a few months ago during the primary, everybody that was like culturally literate was supporting Bernie because he was the only like non-boomer trash candidate that there was, right? Maybe like some like contrarian girlfriends were supporting like Warren or something, right? But like for the most part, like if you're in your 20s and you're supporting Buttigieg or like Biden, like what's wrong with you?
Yeah,
right?
You're a bug person.
You're a sicko.
Right. And I specifically remember from like the first two debates, Cory Booker and Julian Castro called out Joe for being fucking senile.
Yes.
For being fucking senile. And if you bring that shit up to your just like average normie these days, oh my goodness.
Bro, Kamala Harris was out there on the debate floor calling him racist for like not supporting busing, and then also calling him like
shirts off a viral moment that she did with that shit.
Yeah.
And I think Biden being racist is where everybody suddenly becomes a very like end justifies the means utilitarian kind of approach, right? Like as opposed to, I mean, that's a huge
time to get pragmatic. All right, guys.
Listen, if you don't vote for him, you're not black.
No, exactly.
Nah, you know what the craziest thing is? The craziest thing I've heard is people being like, "Well, he's growing." A lib was in my comment.
He's growing at age 80.
He's doing the work.
You don't believe in you don't believe in personal growth? I'm like, yo, he's fucking 50 when he did all that shit. Are you crazy? Or you'll cancel a 13-year-old for saying the N-word like 20 years ago.
Staring down an African or a Native American at like a rally, you're going to cancel this kid and get him like thrown out of college, and yet you think that Joe Biden can change at 82 years old?
No, my buddy made like a really fucking funny point recently, which was like reading between the lines, the entire Corn Pop video is just a story about a time Joe Biden called someone the N-word.
The white lifeguard at an all-black pool telling a guy who wasn't listening to his commands the N-word.
Oh my God.
Yes. Justice for Corn Pop, for real.
For sure. Trump's going to start a new political party called the Corn Pop Party.
Reparations for Corn Pop.
Let's go.
The platinum plan, yeah.
Platinum plan. Platinum subscribers get the real premium plan.
Yeah, where's Corn Pop's hologram?
No, this is I don't know. Yeah, I mean this whole thing of comparing Biden to Trump or whatever. It's like all the woke stuff was the whole angle of why Biden was better, and that didn't hold up to like 2 seconds for me.
Even the rape thing, like
yeah, me too. Racism, the whole list. What do you want? What do you want to know? Eating kids, like he's done it all. He's done all of it.
Sniffing kids' hair, like what the fuck?
Yeah, he's done all of it.
It's a fan.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just funny that like that was the whole basis of like their argument, and my argument was based on like trade and like war, and now he's like deploying like convoys into Syria.
Yeah.
I just saw that shit. Yeah, it's like
And recognizing Juan Guaido.
Juan Guaido. Oh yeah, he's talking about yeah. He's like, yo, solidarity, bro. I stole this shit too. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, like how soon until he recognizes Alexei Navalny as the rightful like ruler of Russia? You know, like just some sort of like delusional Guaido move. Like,
I mean, you say that, but like honestly, like there's probably a reasonable chance, right? Like 4 fucking years of all this Russiagate shit, and like no, dude, like just like the fucking Biden is fucking retarded or whatever the word is, senile. Just like how like people just like are not in the real world about that.
Oh no,
at all. Like, dude, people like didn't get the memo that Russiagate just ended up being nothing and was just proven like across the board.
Nothing gate.
No, it was liberal QAnon. It was straight up. That was liberal QAnon.
Oh yeah,
and the only people who actually went to jail for it, like Manafort and Stone and those people, Trump just pardoned them. So it didn't do anything. It had no effect. Like they were building Robert Mueller up in their minds as this like this
daddy.
He's this avenging one of the fucking Avengers.
And he was so senile. He went up there. He was so fucking like old and decrepit. He's like, I don't see anything conclusive here. I don't know what to tell you guys. Sorry. And everybody was like, what? And then it just disappeared. All that party, all that drama. I stayed up all night watching that shit. It's just gone.
Bro, I remember I was going into work and my goddamn lib girl boss was like, have you been watching the fucking Russiagate trials? And I'm like, no, like never.
Why would I? No, I'm mentally.
Like, I was smoking weed and watching Superbad, bitch.
Yeah. This is the thing about like the conspiracy thing, or like the mono, like the one narrative coming bottleneck from like the media or whatever. That alone, like I'd say Iraq war should disqualify them, right? But like this alone, the 3 years.
Never again.
Never forget. Yeah, the 3 years of Russiagate, like I swear to God, like that is damning. Like that is. I don't know if you're skeptical of what the media says and people look at you like, oh, you're just a crazy conspiracy person. Just think of Russiagate. Think of that, and like think of like honestly, like people don't talk about it, but like what credibility do they have? You're not crazy for not believing them. They bury their own credibility.
Well, the credibility is that no one has like access to any of this data, so like they can just say some shit and like people are just gonna believe it because there's no way to like look and be like, obviously the fuck not, this didn't happen. So they can just make up whatever the goddamn fairy tale they want to, and as long as a couple of news places say it, it'll just go. Like
yeah, pretty much. And like with what you're saying, like just like never again shit, like yeah, I mean it was pretty fucking egregious. So like if you think about it, like I can't even kind of blame them really. Like you can't take that L. You can't acknowledge that all of that was bullshit.
Of course they can't.
Yeah, like I mean I guess in a much more real way. No, exactly. What kind of people would that make them? Like, I guess in a much more real way, they absolutely can.
Oh, they still think Putin. They still think Putin is responsible for the Capitol raid. Like, I remember I was like that day when it was happening. I was watching it at my girlfriend's place, and she doesn't have cable, so we were just like, she just had like the 3 news channels, like ABC, CBS, NBC, just because like no millennials have cable. It's all on like that Roku shit. So like we just flipping between the channels, and like every time. Like the entire coverage was just like it always looped back to like what are our adversaries thinking? Vladimir Putin is watching this right now in the Kremlin and is having champagne. Like he's like our enemies are cheering at what's going on, and like they're having on like people like former CIA heads and stuff to be like, let's diagnose what's going on from the perspective of foreign affairs. It's like, no, this is a domestic. This is the result of you not providing material benefits to your people domestically. Yes. This has absolutely fucking nothing to do with Russia or any sort of international affairs beyond our own imperialism.
Exactly.
After 9/11, just same thing, but Russia.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. This is like, clearly it's the machinations of someone on the other side of the planet that's responsible for why I beat my wife last night. Like, fucking insanity, dude. And like, honestly, you brought up earlier, like, yeah, like no millennials like watch TV or any shit like that, and that's where one thing that doesn't get talked about enough, it's funny shit that I've just been like thinking about recently. I always want to express is like, people aren't talking about this enough. But, like, I don't fucking know. I've just been thinking about it a lot. So what the fuck do I know? But this shit about like alternative news versus legacy media, right? And like, don't get me wrong, like boomers are fucking just, as close to zero brain activity as you could probably get when it comes to this shit, right? But this, like millennials in some ways like are even worse because they have the illusion that they're not just like pumping straight concentrated propaganda straight into their fucking brains because they're consuming a new form of media that's like tailor-made with algorithms and shit like that, when like really like this is like debatably worse than television.
Yeah, if you're watching BreadTube, you're more less informed than someone watching CNN because you just don't even know about regular current events that are happening. At least they tell you about some shit. They're gonna lie about it, but like you can generally kind of suss out what's kind of going on through watching like the cable news, even though it's going to be just complete propaganda. Like you can reverse engineer it and figure out generally these kind of things are happening. If you're just watching like Vouch on BreadTube, you have no clue what's going on.
Yo, what the fuck is up with watching people talk on YouTube? Like I get it, but like I listen to podcasts when I do stuff like with my hands. Yeah. Like if I'm doing something else, like it makes sense to like I love consuming information and having new perspectives and new stuff always coming through my brain. So like it makes sense to like, while I'm doing some mundane chore or manual activity or work or whatever, like listening to podcasts. But like if you're watching a YouTube video, just sitting there watching someone talk at a camera in front of you, the fuck is wrong with you? I like there's a lot of like video essays and things like that. And like, like I'll watch like a Zizek lecture or some shit like that, right? But like, just some random like underemployed dude with a fucking like Canon fucking vlogging camera set up to his PC with like, they all have these fucking like multicolored LEDs behind them that are some shade of purple. Oh, that whole aesthetic, they
have like a gaming chair thing that looks like it's a gaming chair.
I fucking hate it. Why would I watch this shit? Well, okay. I mean, hold on, wait.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just sort of. I'm an anti-gamer if we're coming down on either side. So I had to throw out my flag there.
Oh no. I mean, realistically, like I love playing video games, but like you're objectively correct.
Yeah. No, I love them too in the moment, and then I feel sick after I'll play an hour and then be like, what the fuck am I doing? Like my life is. Feeling very lonely right now.
Gamer, like you get the wall for sure.
Oh, for sure. No, gaming is literally a vice. That's what it is.
Like hentai, same thing. Yeah, exactly.
It's exactly like hentai. It's degenerate.
We do not want this.
We do not want this. They play that game and they think they make progress, but they do not.
Jerk off to anime character.
I just like if I had like an emotional response to that shit, it's just because like I don't know, like if I ever like I'll enjoy video games, but if I ever play them for like an extended amount of time, I'll just feel this like acute sense of loneliness.
Yes.
That like it's honestly kind of disturbing, and like it's a result of like over binging on something, and it's like I feel like I can't imagine other people feel differently, but if you're just sort of overindulging in this shit, it's just going to compound, and that can't lead anywhere good, you know?
Yeah, it's almost like a point of like detachment where you feel almost like you're just like detached from your general being. Like it just feels weird. Like even your eyes feel weird, kind of like
depersonalization.
Oh,
yeah. No, I mean, yeah, that's on some like real shit. I like, dude, like we were talking about Jordan Peterson earlier. Like Jordan Peterson's like gay little like Dragon Quest to slay the dragon, fucking just repackaging fucking Joseph Campbell for bored millennials. The like final boss of his adventure is just video games. It's just like Steam. Steam on someone's PC is the final dragon.
Slay your dragon, complete your hero's journey by like grinding in this busy box. And you're not even like your room may clean itself. You know, you may clean your room like in the meantime and arrange your own space, but like you're still like bowing down at the like feet of your masters and licking their boots, but you're doing it in a cleanly manner.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's we live in a baby world with padded edges on everything, and the conflict that you're doing is illusory even on that level.
Speaking of Steam, I actually just downloaded Steam for the first time ever the other night and played a PC game for the first time in my life. It's HT Poker, just so I can like shit talk weak-minded people.
Nice.
Dude, you have the most boomer taste in fucking games. I love it so much. You're just only ever playing like Xbox 360 basketball games, and you just get online poker.
Yeah, at night, just so you can shit talk people.
I fucking love this, dude.
He's a fake Zoomer. He's optic.
Yeah, no. You're putting your voice through a processing program, and you're really like 60 years old.
Well, yeah. Well, the other thing I was gonna ask you guys is like, did you think of anything of that the Bernie meme or whatever? Do you guys have any feelings about that, or was that
fuck that goddamn Bernie meme, dude?
Yeah, it was okay at the beginning, but it got old so quick, and it was like watching fucking Amazon use it, watching every shitlib that coalesced to destroy him in the primary to like drag him out as this figure of endearment. It just shows how much he's been co-opted and how much he's like a part of the system and how much he legitimates the system with like the fact that he's running this outsider leftist campaign, but then can be absorbed into the beast when it's time to make a relatable meme.
Control opposition shit.
Yeah. But then apparently it's misogynist that he's there wearing.
Yeah. Because Elizabeth Warren also had on a pair of gloves and mittens, and they looked just as good.
Yeah. If you don't like Elizabeth Warren's mittens that are just exactly the same in every way, then your misogyny is showing. Dude, it's exactly like what I was talking about earlier about like the memification of everything, right? Like all you need to keep in mind, right, is like where was Bernie's persona this time 4 years ago? Right? He was fucking Vladimir Putin's fucking agent in the DM. You know, he was a fucking Kremlin asset, and he was
announcing his candidacy in the middle of Brooklyn with that crowd. Like he was spiraling foreign descent towards this country.
No, exactly, and like he so all of these, so it goes to show you, the feedback loop worked, right? And they figured out a little bit better of a way to sit with Bernie and, play him into the strategy a little bit better, right? I mean, I didn't even my girlfriend needed to tell me days later that like people were upset about like sexism with it. And I mean, even there, right? Like the main risk that I see there is that that's not the real threat, right? That's just like the different hoppers that these fucking things go through like in their life cycle, right? The real threat is the initial level, right, of people that think they're true believers, where they're like, oh, we all like Bernie now, right? It's like that's the AOC level, right? Like the 3 steps down with like K-Hive is like, whatever, this is kayfabe illusory bullshit, right? But like this whole thing of like Bernie is now his public persona is the lovable uncle, right? He's our little lovable uncle. Fucking, people 8 months ago that were publishing pieces about Bernie fucking rubbing his palms together and bringing in fucking a body language experts to fucking explain how he's actually like the fucking Nazi octopus wrapped around the globe, like, are now like, oh, we love our crazy little Uncle Bernie. We always have.
His campaign manager may have sat at the same table as Vladimir Putin and Jill Stein, but now he's just like now he's just like everybody's cute uncle who can sit next to like Guy Fieri in the car and just use the fucking "not me us" slogan to legitimize the inauguration.
Totally,
exactly. Like it's just a perfect transition from being like he's some mix of like a Manchurian candidate, just pile of Jewish stereotypes. But now he's, it's just the fucking Kamala thing to Colbert, right? Where he's like, well, what do you think about what you said then? And she's like, it was, that was then. It was a debate. Right?
Yeah.
And these are all the same fucking people that think that moral character. I mean, that's all Kamala is talking about right now, right? It's like, today's a new day. We can teach moral character to our kids because there's not like a morbidly obese orangutan in the White House now. Like,
it's actually good to classify gig economy workers as independent contractors instead of full employees. That's actually the moral thing to do.
Oh yeah,
so that's the right thing to do.
Hey man, I God damn it, I fucking love that old wins for labor have now been, and this is the countercultural thread through leftism, have been rebranded as bad oppressive systems. Specifically, like, man, who wants to be tied down by a 40-hour-a-week, 5-day, 2 days on the weekend kind of schedule
with benefits?
Yeah, hell, baby, work when you want. Asterisk is when your manager will allow you to. But we'll just keep saying, that you're just you build a schedule when you want it to, right? Or I just go into my phone and I just like hit, go into the Uber app and just hit that I want to work now. This is of course better than people that fought tooth and nail for the 40-hour work week and weekends. Why do we even want those things? You know what I mean? Obviously, even a basic paycheck every 2 weeks is oppressive too when you really think about it.
So having a set income to base your budgeting around is really honestly oppressive.
Honestly, dude, fucking, who used to budget? My fucking dad, and that guy was a piece of shit. Fuck him.
Yeah, he voted for Trump. So
yeah, he's going to fucking Gitmo. So
this is the thing. Yeah, I mean, like I should have known. Like, what the biggest warning early on when I was like into Bernie was like these libs being like, yeah, I love Bernie, like I love him, but all this, like, I just realized, like, in hindsight, if he's the right guy, they can't say they love him. You know what I mean? These people would not say that.
They
like,
will hate him.
Yeah, you gotta hate him. And who do they hate? Trump. And that's why, honestly, he was better, because he actually like evoked like real hatred and fear out of these people. And I mean, they if your supporters are getting designated terrorists, that's kind of based. It's kind of based. Honestly, like, that's why I fuck with these people more, because like they actually did some shit, and like as opposed to like Pelosi, the squad couldn't even symbolically interfere with Pelosi, like not even symbolically, not even go in the back room and make a deal like, hey, we're gonna do this kayfabe, like this.
But there's a 30-year plan, CRK.
Yeah, Bernie was never allowed to get to the position where he could challenge the system like Trump did. Like honestly, like in retrospect, 2016 was the moment, because they had the super delegates, but they didn't have the control over the primary process that they did in 2020, when they're able to like have this artificially large field of candidates and then winnow it strategically at the right moment to just coalesce around someone to beat Bernie. Like his insurgency, his true outsider status in 2016, that was the moment, and that's why Trump won that election. And I mean, Bernie, like that's 2020 aside, that's the one you should point to where he would have won and he would have been like a force. But like they you know, at the end of the day, the DNC did their thing and put their foot on the scale and did what needed to be done. But it's like, I feel like a lot of the 2020 stuff it's more useful to look back at when you even had even more power than you do now, but you didn't even realize it because like the moment passed.
Yeah, totally, and I would talk to like right wingers that I knew, and like a lot of them were just like, nah, man, like I've already written the guy off, right? And I'm like, why? Like we got another shot, and it's like, dude, weren't you paying attention in 2016? Like, what's different? What's different? And like I mean, that was the cope that I was in this year.
And he endorsed Hillary. He endorsed Hillary. I mean, that's not a good look. It's
ultimate
not a good fucking
ghoul
look.
lizard bitch.
Right.
Yeah. It's not a good look. I mean, if you really feel like these people are fucking, if you're up there talking about, capitalism and oligarchy, and you're really saying this shit, we need to change this, we need to stop this, and then you're like, oh, but I still like these people. They're still good people. Then who's going to believe you? Who's going to believe you?
How is anyone surprised that Bernie did what he did after he endorsed Hillary? Like, we knew, like, everyone knew, like, you should have known that if he was going to lose, that he was going to completely fold into the system.
Yeah.
That's what he's been done before.
That's what he's been doing his whole goddamn life, man. He's like a lifetime politician. Like, what the fuck? He's a bourgeois politician just like the rest of these people. Like, people act like he's not. Like, he just cloaked his campaign in revolutionary rhetoric, which at the end of the day is even more sinister than the rest of them.
That our revolution stuff starting to look a lot more sinister in retrospect.
Totally.
Because it's like the highest form of propaganda, style of propaganda that the state has now. Like he beta tested it for him, and like that's the hottest.
Yeah, he totally commodified it.
Yeah, 100%.
It's literally all going to Act Blue. All his donations, and I stupidly donated. I don't know why I did. When it was like, when it was getting like I told my brother years before out in like 2018, I'm like, he has no shot in 2020. It's over. It's already done. Like it's he can't do it. And I still got caught up, and I still donated because I was like, shit, mate. He's doing better than I thought he would. And this all that money, Act Blue, just like BLM. And this is why they're more sinister, because it's like you take people who have better intentions, who want things to be better, and you funnel that stuff to get absorbed, and it goes back to these people that that's the whole reason why they voted for you, is to get these fucking people out of here.
Well, then it tarnishes also this revolutionary rhetoric and all of this policies and shit that you were even talking about, like the economic populism and shit that you were even leaning towards in the first place, because now next time someone talks about, oh, it's revolution, it's goddamn AOC selling t-shirts online that say our revolution. Like this shit's like, you're tarnishing the entire thing.
T-shirts suck.
Awful t-shirts.
As far as like aesthetics and everything, like the Capitol raid or whatever, and like debates about whether that was all just like LARP or show or whatever. Like I honestly thought there would be something more happening in inauguration. I thought something would happen, but like it seemed like it was just there was like an unprecedented amount of troops just like throughout the Capitol, and that was just like a funny thing, like visually, just looking at it was just like there's all these troops, and it's like the end of fascism or whatever. Right?
Yeah,
it's just hilarious. Just like funny optics, but I mean,
we've all been caught trusting every once in a while.
Like Trump, I just love the irony of Trump rising to power through threatening to lock up his political enemies, and then his successor is being sworn in under an occupied Capitol green zone, like 20,000 National Guard troops that are being vetted for their political allegiance. And he didn't drain the swamp. He just wore the face of everything and like revealed everything for what it truly was.
Yeah, he entrenched the swamp. Like they're like dug even deeper in now. They have to.
Yeah. I mean, I will just say it's just funny that during the whole thing I kept hearing them saying like democracy prevailed. The news people just kept saying that over and over, and Kamala and Biden, and I just kept thinking like, this is like some love is hate thing, or like war is peace thing. It's like, what the you think I'm stupid? Like I saw what you, and look, I might be alone on this, but like I saw what the fuck you did. You fucking rigged it, and you're like, there's tons of troops out there, and with COVID, like social distancing, there's like nobody in the crowd, and that's supposed to be like democracy prevailing. Well,
it's just like
it looks crazy.
It's just like COVID shit. Like the more they're trying to tell you something like that, the more you know it's bullshit. Like, oh, democracy prevailed. Democracy prevailed on every goddamn headline ever. Oh, the most dangerous virus in the world on every goddamn headline ever. All right, maybe both of those things are fucking bullshit. Like,
no, it's like you always know that like dudes that have really big dicks just constantly go around telling everyone every chance they can that they have a that enormous cock, right? Or like going around just being like, I definitely didn't just shit my pants, and you can trust me because I'm thinking to tell you right now that I didn't shit my pants. Like,
yeah, and I've said it before, but like Kamala, like gonna be president, and she like couldn't even run in her own state, like 3% of the prime. I mean, look, like you want to talk about fascism, like this is authoritarianism, like this is what it looks like. Patriot Act 2, going to war, like monitoring domestic like people in the country. Like I don't know what to tell you. This sounds more authoritarian than whatever Trump did. And like it's just the weirdest fucking thing watching this happen. And I mean, I said this shit was gonna happen. I said it all year. I was like, yo, there's gonna be a coup. The military is gonna be there. People were mad condescending to me. They were like, what are you talking about? I'm like, yo, look what happened. Look what happened. That's what happened. We're fake election, and there's mad troops there. And I said that the right would do something. I said that the right would actually pull up and do something. And people thought that wasn't going to happen either. And they did. And 5 people died. So, I mean, I'm just saying, like, you know, this is what's going on. Like, this is I was right about that shit. That's just what it is. I don't care how other people view it, but like I was right. That's what it is. I mean, I'm serious.
Yeah,
like, that's what it is.
The whole stolen election thing is so interesting because like no matter like whether you actually think Dominion voting machines manually flipped votes or the people who were working the counting actually flipped stuff, the entire thing was socially engineered in a way using technology, using media, and hiding away the actual candidate who was on your presidential ticket in favor of the person who you clearly want to succeed him. That was clearly the MO from the beginning. And it was something that's never been done before. And it was successful. They won. They increased. They won by a smaller margin than they thought because they thought when they increased turnout, like they did everything they could to gin up turnout. They thought it would be a fucking massive landslide. You get even more gains in the House. But actually, like in reality, more people voted for Trump than they ever thought would, and he made gains among the demographics that like they never thought he would.
Oh so, yeah, it wasn't for like the media going strong arm against him and like social media and algorithms going against him for the past like 4 years straight or 5 years straight, painting him out to be like an evil fascist dictator. Then he totally would have fucking won that thing. Like that's where the rigging is. It's like the entire media state was against him constantly. Like,
well, and I'll even say, I mean, like, and I'll go the hard election truther position here. Like we were all there on election night. Like Trump won like fairly strongly too. Can
we talk real quick about mail-in ballots and about how the people who were pushing about how safe they were this whole time, like all these social media companies that are putting alerts up on their like Facebook, they're like, well, actually mail-in ballots are safe. Well, let's talk about how yesterday fucking Amazon came out and said, you know what? No, we don't want our workers voting for unionization via mail-in ballots because they're just not very fair and they're not secure. We want our workers to vote for unionization in person.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So they've now flipped. They flipped on that. Like it's fucking nuts, man. Like rules for me,
because they're chasing the bag either way. It's better for them when Biden's in. It's better when their workers oppose unionization. Oh,
totally.
And that barriers to voting.
Well, that's a perfect 2-for-1 too, because then all the fucking shit libs will do their usual thing where they just go like, "Well, it's just that's a private company. That's a private.
Yeah, they can do what they want to. Free market, baby.
Yeah, that's the.
And they have all that public goodwill from the way they all simultaneously crack down on conservatives. Like the tech companies have so much leeway right now. We're sort of in a little Twitter bubble who is pushing back against that narrative. But like among the general population of normies who aren't even online, like the tech companies have so much goodwill right now because they just did what they wanted them to do for the last 4 years. They could have done it at any time, but they needed the Capitol storming to make that right narrative to like sell it to people.
Yeah, like they more. I mean, in my IRL experience, it seems like they adequately justified it, and then you're seeing these fucking slime people articles coming out in the last couple of days, being like, Facebook and Twitter just proved that deplatforming works, which like is like not like a headline you want to see.
And also, proof doesn't happen in like 2 fucking days. Like, what are you talking about, man? Like, well, we deplatformed him and now you can't see his tweets on Twitter anymore. Well, yeah, no shit, it works. If you take him off Twitter, you can't see him on Twitter anymore. But like, there's no way to measure if that energy is like gone, which it totally the fuck isn't gone. Like,
right.
I mean, I don't know. It's just think of all the media narrative shit. It's just like, people forget like a week before the election, everyone was like, it's going to be a landslide, like murder. You know what I mean? Russiagate worked, impeachment worked, COVID worked. People they don't want MAGA as a small minority. That's what they said. And the night came, and it's clearly not. It's clearly not. And it's like, I kept saying this, like, I don't think everybody buys this stupid bullshit on the news. I really don't think that. But people were like, no, dude, of course they do. And I'd be like, oh, you think, like, you don't think they'll do some Iowa funny shit? Like the what was the company? The Dark.
Shadow,
and Dominion.
Shadow. You're literally like saying the quiet part out loud with the names. You feel comfortable enough to name the apps that are like, putting their foot on the scale in terms of the way elections play out. Shadow and Dominion.
Yeah, it's the one. People, I was like, something like that's going to happen. They're like, what, are you crazy? You think they're just going to download a vote? And what do we see?
You wouldn't download a vote.
This is the fucking and this is just kind of funny, but like, so election truthing is in two camps, right? It's you're either voting machine pilled or mail-in ballots pilled, right? Like that's the two flavors of it.
I'm tech social conditioning pilled.
Yeah, that's me too.
Yeah. I think
I'm all three.
Yeah. All of them three. They all work together.
They're separate. They're like the Trinity. Yeah.
The nice thing about like the just like media hegemony one is that it's just like you just cannot it's just
demonstratable. Like it's just
a good base. It's a good base to start off from because it's undeniable.
It's the most obvious. Yeah, I definitely think it's like a mix of all of them. I do think like I think I might be a little bit more mail-in ballot pilled than voting machine, just because I think I'm a little skeptical of like the mystique that the voting machine argument that has, because it's like techie a little bit, and like I don't know. I think just straight up just having some people fucking put like a filing cabinet box just like under a table full of votes just like kind of makes sense, like it's kind of like the Jim Clyburn case of like the Bernie campaign in 2020, where you're just like, oh, it wasn't anything like super crazy. It was basically just kind of like a statesman just like doing some fucking deals.
It's some Occam's razor shit, like simplest.
Exactly. And that's why I like it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The whole thing was just like, it's just trippy, surreal to watch. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's never been like a inauguration like that many like troops around it. I mean, it's literally what I had this vision. I just remember now I need to fucking brag to my friend about this, because I told him that once, like, I was like, yo, there's going to be, watch, you're going to see, he'll be up there, there'll be mad troops around him. It'll be weird as fuck. I bet you. And he's like, oh, are you crazy? I can't even imagine that happening. Are you crazy? Yeah. That's what happens. I got to make sure I collect on whatever bet I made with him. Like, that's exactly what happened.
CRK's just out here at like putting mad bets on like general Q and election shit, like staking them all over town.
Fuck, I honestly should start like putting money down on some of this stuff at a certain point. Because like we're just like I mean, if you're tapped into the take mills all the time,
Yeah, it's not hard to like kind of just shift through all the bullshit and see kind of like what the general direction of things is heading in,
I don't think there's much else we had to talk about, unless you guys.
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much went off on all the topics. Like that was fucking great.
Yeah, this is great, man.
It was pretty good.
We should get you back on with the others, with Doomer and Rob and all that. We should do that again.
Hell yeah, I'd fucking love that. Thanks again, guys. This was really fucking awesome.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Coming on. Thanks.
Yeah.
Peace.
Hey, this is GRIFTSH0P. You can find me on Twitter at GRIFTSH0P. The O is a 0. I run a political themed merch site, which you can check out at grift.shop.